Hi, welcome to another tutorial from Valentia Photography Workshops with me, Stephen Power. In this one, I'll talk about the best way to use the rule of thirds in your landscape and portrait photography. Hi, in this video I'm going to talk to you about the rule of thirds, which is a theory that you might find useful when composing your photographs. It's certainly not a new idea and goes back to the late 18th century when the artist and art critic John Thomas Smith wrote about the artist Gainsborough and used the term in that book to describe the way he was composing some of his paintings. Since then it's been used a great deal in art and by artists and by photographers and by cinema photographers as well. The idea is basically that if you divide the scene you're looking at into 3 vertically and 3 horizontally, then you get 9 grids, or 9 squares if you like. The points where those lines intersect, these are called the power points actually, or the crash points. These intersections are where the eye will naturally fall in the scene. By placing your objects, the main subject of your photograph, on one of those intersections, or in fact one of the straight lines, vertically or horizontally, will give the image more energy, more dynamism, if you like, and the eye will be drawn more to the subject. Now, I've deliberately started with an image of the standing stone at St. Brendan's Well on Valentia Island that breaks the rules. You can see that the standing stone is right in the middle of the scene, and the horizon line is also in the middle. So none of the vertical or horizontal lines are actually intersecting on or near the main subject. The first thing it does really, or the main thing that it does, is give a lot of space on both sides. And in some ways this object looks a bit too central, a bit too balanced really. Now if we compare that with a different composition, so I've actually moved the grid now so that the subject is intersected by this vertical line on the right hand side, and the top horizontal line and the bottom horizontal line are both intersecting the standing stone. This has also had the effect of moving the horizon line down closer to the top horizontal line. So if we set that, we get this image, which to my eye anyway is stronger. Even though there's space over here, there's less space on the right hand side, and the stone seems to attract the eye more. Okay, so let's have a look at this second image. Something that the rule of thirds does quite usefully is allow you to position the horizon line. If you put the horizon lower in the scene, then you get more sky, and if you put the horizon higher in the scene, you get more land. And this is important depending on what you want to emphasize more in the photograph. The last thing you want to do really is put the horizon line in the middle. So in this image, we've actually, although it's a bit deceptive looking, it's we've actually got the horizon line around the bottom third horizontal line. And the house is actually on the intersection of the bottom horizontal and the right hand vertical. So the eye will go straight to it. What I find a problem with this image is that there's a lot of what's known as negative space here on the left hand side. So this blue sky doesn't really do very much to the photograph. It's a bit wasted. Now what we could do is bring in the grid. So we're going tighter. We've still got the house on the intersection of the lower horizontal and the right hand vertical. And what we've done there now is lost some of the sky, which may make for a stronger photograph. I've composed this photograph of Valletta Island Lighthouse so that the horizon is very high. It's on or very close to the top horizontal line. And I've done that so that the rocks in the foreground will be given more emphasis. So it seems like there's some space, some distance between the photographer and the subject, and you've got all these rocks and crashing waves going on, which might not have been so dramatic had I put the lighthouse lower down with more sky. The rule of thirds is not only useful for landscapes, but all sorts of different types of photography, and it works very well, I think, for people photography, for portraiture. So there's an example here where the subject is standing right in the middle of the scene. It looks nice, but again, a bit like the standing stones shot, quite a lot of space on both sides. She's quite small in the frame and probably a bit too well balanced. So what we can do here is move the crop so that she's on the first and second horizontal lines, the upper and lower horizontals, and the first vertical. And that gives a nice strong image. Head and shoulder shots work quite well using the rule of thirds. It's often a good idea to put the eyes on the intersection of the two verticals and the top horizontal, and that tends to give enough space around the top of the head without getting too tight to the head or the eyebrows. I like this one because if you look closely you can see me in the sunglasses. And this last one I quite like. It was taken at Waterford Crystal factory some time ago. Oh, his head is intersecting with the first vertical and the top horizontal, and his hand is intersecting with the first vertical and the bottom horizontal. And the lamp is quite close to the intersection of the second vertical and the top horizontal. You'll often find a rule of thirds grid in the live view of your camera. So if you're not used to using the rule of thirds, then it might be a good idea to put that up when you're composing your pictures and play around with it. Move the objects around in the scene so that they're intersecting with one set of horizontals and verticals, and then maybe intersecting with a different set, and just to see how that changes the composition. Okay, so that was a quick overview of the rule of thirds, and I hope you find it helpful for your photography. Please stay in touch by hitting the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.